goes that St. Brigid was called to the sickbed of a chieftain, and he was a non-believer. And while she was there, she talked to him about the story of Christ, and she was explaining about Christ's death and resurrection. And as she sat there, there were rushes on the floor to keep the dust off, and she started twiddling with them, and as she did so, she wove a cross from the rushes, and she used it to show the chieftain how Jesus had died, and before he died he was converted by the words that Brigid had used, and was baptized before he died by Brigid's witness. So that is the story of how the St. Brigid's cross came to be. Across Ireland there are lots of different types of St. Brigid's crosses, and they're formed in different ways. Here I have 3 different ones that I have made using paper straws, just as samples for you. This one here is probably the one that's most recognisable. It's used in a lot of corporate logos. A lot of the St. Brigid's cross jewellery would have this form as well. So it's characterised by the square centre on it. This one here is constructed in much the same way as this one, but this time there are only 3 legs on it, so to speak. Some say that this is the form of the Trinity, and that that's where the story behind this one comes from. When you're forming it, the only difference is that instead of creating a 4th spoke, you bend one of the spokes to become angled, so that you have just the 3 spokes, and it creates this pattern then with the triangle in the centre instead of the square. This one here is used in a lot of places across Ireland as well, and it can be used with lots of different, many different parts weaving over the top of each other. Some would have 4 strands going across, and some will have the 3, others have more. This one I've done 3 in each direction, with 2 straws on each of them. It was tricky to do with paper straws, so it's kind of hard to describe it. I'm going to try it with some plastic straws for you to demonstrate how this one here is made as well. This one here is just a little bit simpler, especially for children. It's not quite as complicated in terms of the weaving process. It's a little bit fiddly to get the bits woven through, but in general it's easier to make. But there are other forms as well, similar to some forms that you get in folk art in other countries in the world. So those are some examples of how a St. Brigid's cross can be made. This is how you make the kind of square, the traditional St. Brigid's cross that most of us would recognise. All you need to make this is a handful of rushes or paper straws, which is what I used to make this one here. Just use paper straws, you can see. These are craft ones, they're quite firm, so they were hard to work with, but they look quite nice whenever it's finished. You can use plastic straws as well, but they're not quite as pleasant to look at, or pipe cleaners as well. So yes, some rushes or any strong grass does the job. Something to tie it up with, I'm using little hair ties, mini ones. You can use elastic bands, or if you have string. Some people use the actual rushes themselves, but then that requires weaving in and out. It's a bit more complicated. And a pair of scissors. So to start off with, you get 1 single rush, and you hold that one in your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold it in my left hand. Then get another rush in your dominant hand, and just gently pinch the middle to soften it so that it will bend without breaking. And you fold that over the top of your straight rush. and point it to the left. So I'm pinching it with my finger and thumb at the where I've bent it, just to hold it in place until I can let go with my left hand and grab the one I've just folded over. Then I turn that to the bottom. So you need to always hold the one you have just folded and hold it to the bottom. Then you get your next rush. Again, pinch it somewhere around about the middle to soften it, and bend and fold it to the left underneath the one that's already there. Hold it in the center while you grab with your other hand, and then turn it to the bottom. Same again, get another rush, pinch it, this one's a bit short, sorry, a different one. Pinch it in the center and fold it across the one you've just folded, pointing to the left. And you're always working on the bottom underneath. Hold the center until you can let go, grab a hold of that and turn it to the bottom. Now you've got your 4 spokes, and you continue the pattern over and over again, and as you do so the center will become bigger and bigger. So pinching gently, and by the way, if there are any leaves on the grass that you use, just strip them off before you start. Then folding it over the one you're holding, pointing to the left, hold it in place in the center, then grab it and turn it to the bottom. You want to always try and keep this as neat and tidy in the center as you can. So hold it as close to the center as you can. Again, pinch, center, fold, and point to the left as you tuck it in underneath. Hold the center so you can grab the one you've just folded and turn it to the bottom. Pinch, fold, put it on the underside, hold the center, grab and turn to the bottom. And you start to see the square pattern appearing here now. Pinch the center, fold it around the one you're holding, point to the left, hold the center until you can get a hold of this spoke and turn it to the bottom. Fold it to the left, hold and turn to the bottom. Fold it to the left, hold and turn it to the bottom. And we keep doing this over and over. Until you get it to the size you want it to be. It's your own choice how big you want the centre to be. I usually like it a little bit bigger than this. It'll also depend on how many rushes you've got. That one I showed you at the beginning of this little snip of video. I only had about 6 or 8 rushes. Was all I'd been able to find that day, but another nice parishioner, knowing that I was making this video, gathered these for me, so thank you, Bernadette. So I'm able to make a better cross this time. So you can see the square pattern is really starting to emerge now in the centre. So always holding the one you've just folded and holding it at the bottom so that you can work your way around. It's not easy to get rushes in Belfast during a pandemic. I don't know that it counts as essential travel. You keep going around and round until you get it to the size you want. And always working to make sure that they're nice and neat and tucked in, otherwise it starts to fall apart a little. Nearly there. I think that's just about enough. So at the end, what you can do for your last one is to pull out the spoke over here before you fold your last one across. So this spoke here has come out. The last one on this side, so that when I fold across, I can tuck it inside that there spoke with both ends of the rush, so that whenever I've got that tucked in there and pull this back up, it makes it, seals it in, and the whole cross holds itself, if that's the case, if that's how you do it. Other than that, you can just fold your next one across if you don't want to do that because it's a bit fiddly. And as you fold it across and hold it at the bottom, and then just tie your elastic on if you don't want to do the tucking in thing. It is a wee bit fiddly to do. It does finish it off nice and neat, but it still looks reasonably neat doing it this way too. So you can do it either way. So I'll show you again how you do the tucking in. So before you fold across your last one, this is going to be my last one here, you pull that one there out, and then folding across, you tuck one end in on this side, fold it over on the other side and tuck it in through that loop. So they're both in through this loop here. Push it through to be tight. And then pull that one back up again to make it neat. So a little bit of adjustment just to hold it in place in the centre. Then you turn it around and I chop off my ends to whatever length you want it to be. You can make it long or you can make it a little bit more squat if that's what you prefer. And just wrap an elastic band around it where you've trimmed off the ends. And if you do the one that you've just finished with, that will hold all the rest of it together, whether you've done the tucking in method or just folded the last one over. And then you chop the next one so it's around about the same length. You just have to go by eye, or you can measure it if you really want to be fussy. This is the messy bit where bits of rushes go flying all over the room. And again, just wrap an elastic band around the top to hold the rushes in place. Do the same with all the sides. Get my elastic bands on. Elastic bands are handy because you can just wrap them around, whereas if you have to tie it, it's a bit more fiddly. And so that's it. It's the finished cross made from rushes. This is how we make this form of the St. Brigid's cross. I've made this one with paper straws. They were quite hard to work with. I only used 2 across each time, and I'm going to do the same with the plastic straws. But normally there would be 3, 3 and 3 here. So if you're making it with rushes, normally you would use 18 straws altogether, 9 in each direction. But I'm going to do it with 6 in each direction tonight. So we have got 6 of them are elastic band together to make one big stalk, and then the rest of them have been put together in pairs. These are the ones that are going to weave through the main one. So the first one, we need to pull it apart in 2, and we weave one end in through it. Then pull apart another 2 and weave it over those. So we should have an over, under, over pattern. You need to keep hold of that with your non-dominant hand, and then get your next pair that have been clipped together somehow. I've just used little hair tags and little hair elastics on these. So this time we are going, this one has gone over first, so I'm going to go under first, then over, and then under. This is where the paper straws were too firm and I couldn't really weave it quite as neatly as rushes, or the plastic straws are more bendable. Okay, and then your next one is done the same way as the first one. So we had over, under, over, then we had under, over, under, and then we go back to over to start with. So over the first pair, under the next one, and over the final one. So you have your 3 across 3. Then all you need to do is attach these together. So I just take off one of the elastics off the outside one and reuse it around all 3. So that's one end tied, and then again close up the other end. I'll pull off one of the elastics to reuse. And use it around all 3. Okay, once you've done that, you just need to tidy up the center a little bit. So push them together, apart, whatever way you need to do, just to tidy it up. Make sure it's all centered and pull them apart a little just so you can see the weaving effect. This obviously looks much nicer with real rushes, even though the paper one looks nicer than this, but the plastic straws do bend easier. Pipe cleaners work as well if you don't have anything else, or you can even just do it with strips of paper, and it works fine like that too.